We just saw When the Game Stands Tall, and on this show, I take my friends, we go see a movie, we give it a review and a discussion in the car. The review part is spoiler-free, so if you're on the fence and trying to decide if you want to see the movie or not, watch the first half. And the second part, we go into more details and talk potentially about spoilers, so if you've already seen the movie or don't care to have it spoiled, watch the whole thing. This is a sports movie about a high school football team that was not hard to watch. It wasn't boring. It was fairly predictable, but it was very well acted and very well put together as a story. One of the things that I was really worried about watching the trailer was that the whole movie was going to be about them coming back from losing the streak, and that's not what the movie is at all. It's actually mostly, I mean, that's kind of like the second act is what happens, is that they lose the streak, but that doesn't really tie them or tear them apart as so much as all the other things that are going on. And it turns out to be more of a sort of a show about the coach. It's really kind of a nice way of explaining what this coach means and how he does what he does and that sort of stuff. And it's based on real life stuff, and it actually, the stuff they showed during the credits at the end of the actual coach himself talking about some of the stuff and giving some of the speeches that they've reenacted in the movie, like that, it was interesting to see that after seeing the actual story. So I would say if you're into these kind of movies, you'll enjoy it. It's better than a lot of the other sports movies that I've seen. I know there are some people that are concerned about it for being a little too Christian or having a lot of kind of overtones. I wouldn't say that's really a problem with this movie. It has a little bit of that in there, but it's a Christian school, and kids pray and football games and locker rooms all the time. It's not that big a deal. They do a lot of talking about biblical verses, which is kind of odd, but it's not done in such a way that it's like directed at the audience. It's more just how they're framing what they're talking about. So overall, yeah, I enjoyed it. I did not expect to. This isn't the kind of movie I generally tend to go to or tend to like, but for the sake of reviewing it, I went and saw it, and I didn't regret it. So it was pretty good. What'd you think?
It is not one that I really expected to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even though you have a pretty good cast, I enjoyed it though. I liked that they didn't hammer home that the streak was over.
Right.
You figured that was going to be the entire movie.
Yep.
But they were like, streak's over.
Yeah.
Let's see what we can do after this. And there were a couple things that I was disappointed in.
Overall, would you recommend it?
I would. I love football movies. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
I was a big fan of Rudy. I was a big fan of The Program. Is it up in their echelon? No. But it's very focused on what it's going to do, and what it is uplifting.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't hammer us over the head with anything.
Yeah.
It was uplifting. It was, let's move on to the next thing. There were some muddled points and some things that didn't, they were introduced and didn't come back.
Uh-huh.
But overall, the movie was good.
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend
Yeah.
it.
So it's a recommend. Yeah. So I don't know how much there really is to spoil in the movie. I mean, it's very much what you expect it to be. They show that there's a kid that gets killed, and that happens in the trailer, so it's not a huge spoiler or anything like that.
Oh yeah, I didn't really want to spoil that.
But yeah, I mean, it is in the trailer. So yeah, I mean, as far as like negatives and stuff like that, it really felt weird the way that they treated. I felt kind of weird about the way they treated the black characters on the team, and maybe that's just being oversensitive about it. But it was like there was the two guys that were friends, and the one gets killed, and then the one graduates, and then he's kind of gone for the rest of the movie until the very, very end because he graduated.
That really didn't come up at all after that.
Right.
You know, I guess they hammer. I actually laughed. I laughed for. It's horrible, but I laughed. They lose a streak. The kid dies. The coach has a heart attack. All of this bad stuff. Bam, bam, bam. It hits them all at once. And I was just like, that is hilarious that all of it would happen at once. You know, what are the odds of that?
Well, I mean, in a screenplay, the odds of that are 100%. That's how they always work.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of movie 101. But I think what it did a good job of doing was not making it about any one thing. You know, they weren't all distraught because TK was killed. They weren't distraught because they lost the streak. They weren't distraught because the coach had had health problems and couldn't be there for the summer or whatever. It was like all of those things contributed to them having problems that next year, and that made for a more interesting movie and a more believable movie. But it also left it with several plot threads that just kind of evaporated once they moved past that point.
Yeah.
So,
like, the father, the coach has a heart attack.
Right.
He comes back and he coaches, and they don't mention it. They don't mention it almost ever.
yeah.
The player dies. They don't mention it almost ever.
Right.
The streak ends. You know, outside of them being hooked on the idea of the streak existing, they don't mention it almost ever.
Right.
They go right into let's be the best team that we can be, and
Which I actually like. I mean, I like that they don't make the whole movie about, you know, we've got to get the streak back, or they don't simplify it to that degree. You know, it turns into, okay, well, we're going to get this kid his record, you know, his state record.
Yeah.
And then that turns into the thing that sort of drives the third act of the movie. But I actually like, they made it more of a focus on getting better and not not dwelling on anything specific or not, redeeming themselves in any specific way. I also thought the entire time that the performance of the coach and the way that they shot him and all that stuff, that you could recut this as a horror movie and have him be like a serial killer, because he always has this intense "I am going to kill you" stare, like the entire movie. Every time you cut over to him, it's just like,
are we? Am I okay to spoil things?
Yeah.
That's okay. So there were characters introduced that I really thought were going to be big, and they weren't. The kid's father, the kid's family, the kid who died.
mm-hmm.
His family, I thought, was going to be a big part of the show.
Yeah.
They made like one more appearance.
Right.
The what was the other plot thread that kind of fell to the wayside? They made a big deal of him having the heart attack. They made a big deal, like right there, of him having the heart attack and him reconnecting with his family.
Mm-hmm.
And then they never mentioned that again.
Well, he didn't really do it. I mean, he didn't really reconnect with his family.
Well, some time passed and he tried, I guess.
Not really. I mean, that's why, like, Laura Dern was telling him, like, I'm ready to let you go again because you're going to go. And then the next thing you see, he's on the football field again.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, while he was recovering, I assume he attempted, he was having his cookouts and everything.
But, I mean, they established that, like, his son didn't feel like he was helping him out the way he wanted to, and
Yeah.
I think they handled all that stuff really well. And, I mean, as far as, like, discarding characters and things like that, those are the sort of things that you kind of have to do to keep a movie like this moving. Otherwise, it's, why a year later do we still care about the dead kid's son? Like, that's not part of the story anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the idea that they brought, they brought the veterans into it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that entire thing was to humanize the black character.
I think that was
hot shot on the team.
I think that was part of it. I mean, it was also sort of like wake up call, like realization that high school football is not the most important thing in the world, and that there's other things out there to work on and deal with, and other people have it much worse than you do, and try and motivate them to work harder and all that kind of stuff.
I laughed so hard when I realized that the Kurgan was in it.
Yeah,
Because
Clancy Brown is the, like, overzealous dad, and yeah, we were referring to him as the Kurgan, like he was going to feel the quickening. And
yeah, I loved that. I had this idea in my head, and it actually came down to it. I was like, Jesus, the coach, was played by by Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus in the Passion play, or the Passion of the Christ. Jesus was going to fight the Kurgan for the state championship.
that would have been amazing.
And it pretty much happened at the end. Like, the Kurgan was the the villain of the film,
Yeah, pretty much.
he rode his son, and he was very confrontational about everything, and he was just like, we've got to be the best. You've got to get that record. And at the end, the kid had to choose between the villain, his father, and the record,
Between Jesus and the Kurgan.
and the coach. Everything the coach taught him, and it was Jesus versus the Kurgan. It was
When
awesome.
the cheese stands alone. Well, that's when the game stands tall. I hope you enjoyed our review. Please like us, subscribe to us on YouTube here, and check out all the written and video reviews at DaleMaxfield.com. Thanks for watching.